A historic moment unfolded. It was the finals of Epic, the Path of the Strongest tournament. It was the undying god of war, Ling Jie, versus the genius sword saint, Bailey Changcheng. The ultimate clash between two undefeated legends. The host asked if Ling Jie's insane strength and flawless control could really come from a normal player. A man in red armor lunged at his blonde opponent. The host shouted that he was so powerful he could defy the heavens. This man was Ling Jie, known as the Undying Battle Emperor. His class was Berserker, and he was Epic's #1 warrior. His control was flawless. Every strike went straight for the vitals. He moved like an Asura from hell. The system announced that the defense had been broken. The one defending was Bailey Changcheng, a level 85, Sword Saint. He ranked #1 on the swordsman leaderboard. The host declared that Ling Jie now had a massive advantage, and Changcheng had no way to fight back. Changcheng's health dropped dangerously low. The host hyped the crowd, saying the champion of the Path of the Strongest was about to be decided. Ling Jie stood over Changcheng. He smiled and said he had won this time. He even reached out a hand to help him up. Changcheng knew he had lost, but he couldn't accept it. He drew out more power. Energy gathered into a single point, then burst outward. Changcheng said that once he brought out that power, all of Ling Jie's hard work would mean nothing. He activated a cheat system. Ling Jie froze at what he saw. Changcheng spent 500,000 yuan to gain super speed. Still stunned, Ling Jie realized it was a cheat device. He blocked the first attack, but the next one hit him. Changcheng said Ling Jie was naive for believing hard work could change destiny. Ling Jie felt a chill as Changcheng moved so fast he could barely track him. In an instant, Changcheng appeared behind Ling Jie. He spent 900,000 yuan to activate teleportation. Then he used a one-hit kill skill after paying 1,200,000 yuan. The blade pierced through Ling Jie's back. The system announced that he had been killed by Changcheng. The loser's account would be permanently deleted, and everything they built would be handed to the winner. Ling Jie never thought he would lose like this. He asked why he had betrayed him. He demanded to know why he chose to cheat just to win. It shattered the promise they once made. Changcheng apologized. He said he hoped they could become brothers again in the next life. The system notified Ling Jie that he had lost his player qualifications, and the system began to restart. Ling Jie had lost, and he couldn't accept it. From the day he was born, he had been stuck at the very bottom of society. He had no background, no money, no power, but he believed that as long as he worked hard and stayed ruthless, he could change everything. With his own two hands, he climbed his way up the leaderboard. He was only one step away from the peak, one step away from the throne. He gambled his life for it. But in the end, he was crushed. He thought that if he could start over, he would climb to the top no matter the cost. The system notified him that all his game qualifications had been revoked. Suddenly, he woke up, gasping for air. He was stunned. At first, he had no idea where he was. It looked like his room. He was lying on the floor. A red-haired girl walked in and asked if he was cosplaying as a dead body. He recognized her. It was his sister. 3 years ago, she fell into a coma after a car accident. If she hadn't been kept alive by machines in the ICU, she wouldn't have made it. That's why he used all his prize money from the game to pay for her treatment. So now, seeing her standing right in front of him, he couldn't understand it. He asked how she was fine when she was supposed to be in a hospital bed. She grabbed him and shouted to their mom that he had gone crazy from staying up all night. She said he was the one squatting in front of the TV, waiting for the game's midnight launch. Hearing that, he quickly asked what year, month, and day it was. She told him it was the day of Epic's open beta launch, June 22nd, 5 years ago. That's when it finally hit him. This wasn't a dream. He had really been reborn. When Changcheng betrayed him, he felt nothing but despair. He never expected fate to give him another chance. His life and his game had both been reset. This time, he swore he would stand at the very top of Epic. With the money he saved from 3 years of part-time work, plus the 100,000 he borrowed from a loan shark, he could finally afford a gaming helmet and start over. Epic was a VR MMORPG. As time passed, the game evolved alongside its players. It sparked a massive craze. It was an endless and magnificent world, pulling people in with its high-quality virtual reality. In that world, he was known as the Undying God of War. With pure skill and hard work, he climbed to the top using only basic gear and normal abilities. Players praised his mechanics, and he became one of the most respected names among ordinary players. He was just one step away from becoming the strongest. But in the end, his best friend, Chang Cheng, gave in to power. He turned into an enemy and betrayed him, stopping him from claiming that final title. It made Ling Jie wonder when the betrayal started and why it happened. But he knew thinking about it now was useless. What mattered was the chance in front of him. And this time, he would leave no regrets. He put on the VR helmet and entered the game. The system asked him to choose his class so he could join players from all over the world in exploring this vast and unknown world from the very beginning. Every player entered the game with zero knowledge, forced to figure everything out on their own. But he was different. He was a veteran from 5 years in the future. He knew this world better than anyone. And he planned to use that advantage to move faster, grow stronger, and stay ahead of everyone else. Now that he had been reborn, his resolve was even stronger. This time, he would finish what he started. He would climb to the very peak of epic and become the absolute strongest. He declared that the king of mechanical skill had returned. At the beginner village plaza, the crowd started gossiping when they saw a warrior pass by. They couldn't believe there were still people playing that class, which sat at the very bottom of the class hierarchy. One person even commented that even a dog would shake its head at him. Another person chimed in, saying he didn't even have a decent weapon, yet he walked around so arrogantly. They thought he had nothing to show off when he was broke. They were talking about Lin Jie, a level 1 human warrior. He had no title. He had 125 HP, no mana, and 0 over 100 rage. His attack was 1 to 4 unarmed. Defense was 1, strength was 5, stamina was 5, agility was 3, intelligence was 1, spirit was 1, and willpower was 3. Willpower builds up when dealing damage in that state, and it is required to cast skills. But our MC didn't even care about all of this because he knew things that only he could exploit. 2 years ago, under the night sky with Chang Cheng, he said that no matter what, even if he had to start over, he would still choose to be a warrior. Chang Cheng replied that warrior was a class only bottom-tier players would pick because they couldn't afford expensive gear and couldn't use flashy spells. They could only rely on their natural toughness to charge into the front lines and absorb damage. Basically, warriors were just cannon fodder. He suggested that if Ling wanted to experience the strongest gameplay in the game, he should choose a swordsman like him, elegant and deadly. But Ling firmly believed that the path to power belonged to warriors. He had insane resilience in any situation, and the stronger the enemy, the stronger he became. Only by fighting through every crisis does one earn the right to become the undying god of war, the tier 0 of the patch. Back then, he was level 80, a warrior berserker with the title Undying God of War. He said that only a player who had gone through countless battles without ever dying could earn the title Undying God of War. Chang Cheng asked if he was sure the title would still exist after that day. That question led him to propose a bet. Chang Cheng asked what they were betting on. Ling Jie said the bet was that even after returning, he would still be the undying god of war. At the present moment, he thought about how a warrior's natural advantage was their high HP. Even if he was poor, he wouldn't get one-shot by mini-bosses. On top of that, after completing a quest, he could advance into a higher class in the warrior tree, and it was the same path he chose before, the berserker, a class that turns HP into pure combat power. Pay-to-win players only care about the highest damage or the coolest-looking classes. Mage, swordsman, hunter, and assassin all have massive followings. So 9 out of 10 parties on the streets are just different mixes of those damage classes. But with how unbalanced monster stats are in the early game, he doubted they could even hold their ground, let alone stand still and deal damage. Warriors, on the other hand, have a clear survival advantage right from the start. As for their weaknesses, he could make up for them with his deep knowledge of the game. The system suddenly notified him of a new quest. For this, he had to report to Mel Town. Time remaining, 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Ling walked up to an old man with a long beard. He was the novice guide, outright. He didn't expect to see the old man again, so he felt a bit nostalgic. Suddenly, someone complained that the trash warrior bumped into him. It was a level 2 paladin player, Belai. He told Ling Jie that if he wanted to pass, he had to pay 1 copper coin. Paladin was one of the early pay-to-win classes players loved to pick. It was an all-rounder that balanced damage, healing, and even crowd control. Belai smirked and said that if he didn't pay, he wouldn't be able to pass. Ling Jie noticed that it had only been half an hour since the server opened, yet someone was already level 2. It looked like the same exploit exposed on the forums in his past life. These people dumped money to buy the novice experience pack right after creating their characters. They used the early level gap to bully the weak, mainly by extorting protection money. But in reality, they didn't understand the game at all, and their gear hadn't caught up either. They were just paper tigers. The best choice for the new arrival reward was a bag of copper coins, a full 10 of them. Even if someone paid 1 copper coin as protection money, they would still make a profit. But Jie asked why he would give them any money. Belai threatened him, saying it was because he was stronger than him. Then he attacked, telling Ling Jie to delete his account and start over. Jie grabbed his hand. Belai was shocked that he couldn't use any strength. Jie said that grip amplification was an innate talent. It boosts finger strength, making it harder to drop a weapon once you hold it. Belai quickly activated disarm resistance. He was stunned. The so-called useless talent meant for holding weapons tightly was being used against him. Ling Jie calmly said that was just what others thought. To him, it was the strongest talent. Belai ended up in tears after getting disarmed by someone fighting barehanded. Ling Jie knew that even a trash talent could be used in unexpected ways. Grip amplification lets him parry basic attacks with his bare hands. The effect grows stronger as strength increases. If his strength is higher than the opponent's, he can even trigger a disarm counter. And since Belai got disarmed, it meant the level 2 paladin had lower strength than a fresh account. He didn't put any points into strength at all, which meant he had no idea how to play the game. Belai didn't know that in future talent upgrades, grip amplification would become one of the strongest talents in the warrior tree. Titan's Grip, the advanced form of grip amplification, was a famous god-tier skill. It allowed someone to wield a two-handed dragon-slaying greatsword with one hand. But unlocking it required choosing grip amplification at character creation. The guards arrived, and the crowd quickly scattered. Belai arrogantly told Ling Jie that he was dead meat now for causing trouble in a safe zone. He would be executed on the spot. He even swore in the name of the holy light that Ling had attacked someone in public. Ling knew that the halberd-wielding guards of the beginner village could one-shot level 1 or 2 players. He calmly admitted that he did hit him. Belai urged the guards to punish him harshly, but Ling Jie explained that it was self-defense. Belai froze. The guards rushed forward. He quickly told them to wait, claiming he was a major VIP who had spent 100,000. Ling pointed out that whoever strikes first in a safe zone is judged as the aggressor by NPCs, and anyone who fights back won't be punished, even if they beat the instigator badly. The guards immediately struck Belai. Then a notification popped up. The paladin guard had gifted Ling Jie 1 copper coin. It was compensation for the victim. Ling Jie smirked and told Belai he accepted his apology. Belai's lackeys were furious. Jie casually asked if they wanted to drop a few more copper coins for him. He even gave them the option to clear a path. They were annoyed, but they had no choice but to move aside. Ling Jie walked up to the old man, outright, to claim his novice reward. He sat beside him and said it had been a long time since they last met. Outright looked confused and asked if he knew him. After all, the game had only been out for 1 day. Ling Jie said they were practically old acquaintances. It had been 5 years since they last met. Outright thought he was joking. It didn't matter, since Ling Jie followed the quest and sat in front of him. He qualified for the novice reward. He could choose one of 3 options: 10 copper coins, 3 basic health potions, or a crude iron sword, a warrior-exclusive item. The bystanders laughed, saying any idiot would pick money. Broke players would instantly sell the 10 copper coins. Right now, it could go for at least 100 grand on the black market. But unexpectedly, Ling Jie chose option 4. He knew that it would take 3 years before anyone discovered that the novice quest had a hidden option. The crowd thought he had lost his mind. There was no option 4. Then Ling Jie said, "The bonfire before dawn will extinguish twice." With that, he became the first to unlock the hidden reward. Outright was stunned. He asked where he had heard those words. Jie continued, "When the dark moon sinks into eternal night, the Forsaken shall step through the rifts of time and reappear. What reignites in the ashes is the residual fire of the old gods and the dawn of a new epic." Outright stood there with his mouth open, completely shocked. Ling then revealed to him that it was the secret code Outright himself once gave him. 5 years ago, Ling received a hidden quest to protect Outright's family. Outright broke down in tears as he said he didn't know how to repay him. After all, he was just a novice guide NPC, he truly had no rewards to offer. But he told Ling that if he ever needed help one day, he should just say that passphrase, and even if his identity changed and the system made him forget, he would still remember that Ling was his savior. Outright slowly realized that Ling was someone incredibly important to him. The system then notified that Ling had met the conditions for the hidden quest. Since that was the case, Outright gave him everything he had. It also revealed that the fourth option was a veteran player return reward. In Ling's past life, he was only one step away from becoming the strongest. But in the end, he was taken down by unfair means. Even if unfairness is normal in this world, he refused to accept it. He used an initial talent stone. It was a unique bound item that grants an initial talent. The crowd was shocked to see the custom talent gemstone. It could only be bound once per account at the very start. It couldn't even be bought with real money. If he wanted to become the strongest in this life, he had to dominate from the very beginning. For his second talent, he chose Oath of the Sword. The hidden quest was his first step in changing his fate. Outright explained that this talent was created by the legendary sword Saint Carsi Mel. Those who inherit it become sword oath keepers, gaining extraordinary swordsmanship, but they can only use swords for the rest of their lives. He asked Ling Jia if he was sure. Ling Jia answered without hesitation. Of course, the crowd was confused. They couldn't believe someone would still pick Oath of the Sword. To them, only idiots would choose the sword class as a second talent nowadays. They mocked him, calling him a noob who still looked confident after picking the most bottom-tier weapon mastery. Outright simply said that the strongest weapon isn't the sword, but the one who wields it. Ling thanked him for the gift. In his past life, he only unlocked a second talent at level 30, but now he had it from the very start. His combat power was already far ahead, meaning faster leveling and one step closer to the throne of the strongest. The advantage of pay-to-win players in the early game would fade quickly after level 5. If they wanted to keep up, they would have to keep spending. But if someone relied on pure mechanics like Ling, even a crude iron sword was enough. The sword didn't have the raw damage of an axe. It lacked the suppression of a spear, and it didn't have the flashy effects of a staff. But what people didn't realize was that the sword was the one weapon that truly required skill. His original plan was simple: start with grip amplification, take the crude iron sword from Outright, then head out and begin grinding. But this time, by choosing the hidden reward, the initial talent stone, he skipped the crude iron sword entirely. Now he was heading out empty-handed. He realized everything had changed. If he made different choices in this life, then the entire path ahead would change too, and maybe even the ending. Before he met Changcheng again, he knew one thing for sure. He had to become stronger. He would completely overturn the ending of his past life. As he walked forward, he passed a merchant selling beginner weapons and gear. A hooded man stepped closer with a faint smirk, saying he wanted to check what was being sold. After a quick look, he tossed the items aside, calling them nothing but scrap metal. Then Jia bent down and picked up a wooden stick. As soon as he held it, a system panel appeared. It was just a level 1 weapon, an ordinary, unprocessed wooden stick with pitiful attack power. A wooden stick's main attack method is striking, so it's classified as a club-type weapon. But it also carried a hidden sword tag. That's when he realized something. The merchant panicked and begged for mercy, explaining that he was just a lifestyle player. He nervously added that buying and selling gear was his only way to make a living. The hooded man mocked him, calling him a coward who didn't even know how to fight. As he threw the weapons away, he laughed and told him to go back home and play house. To him, the merchant was nothing but an eyesore. Ling Jia stepped in and said that lifestyle players were players too. No one was above anyone else. Without chefs making food, alchemists crafting potions, and blacksmiths forging weapons, most combat players wouldn't even make it past the city gates. He asked how much the wooden stick cost, and the merchant said 1 copper coin. The hooded man asked who he was. Jia calmly gave his name and class. The man laughed the moment he heard warrior. Ling handed over the coin, and the merchant gratefully thanked him. Ling couldn't help but feel how perfectly timed it was. The coin he got from Malai became the key to something important. The hooded man grew annoyed that Ling ruined his fun. He claimed he was just doing a good deed. Ling pointed out the truth, he was just bullying people. The hooded man smirked and said Ling didn't even realize he had been scammed. He mocked him as a clueless rookie warrior. He went on, saying the wooden stick was complete trash, something no one would even pick up off the ground. He snapped, calling him a dumbass and saying the merchant was obviously a scammer. Frustrated, he cursed that the goods were so worthless he wouldn't even step on them. He said Jia deserved to be scammed, then told his companion to leave. The companion quickly followed. In every beginner village, blacksmith shops were filled with wooden sticks. Even if they were priced at 0, no one cared. Only clueless newbies would buy them for 1 copper coin, thinking it was a bargain. It became a classic scam when Epic first launched. But Ling Jia wasn't a newbie. He was the undying god of war, someone who had handled countless divine artifacts with his bare hands. His instincts wouldn't be wrong. This wooden stick had both sword and club attributes. A normal weapon system shouldn't allow that kind of overlap, unless it was an unidentified divine artifact. Even if he couldn't identify it yet, using it as a sword was more than enough. Ling equipped the wooden stick. A status window appeared before him, showing his identity as Lin Jia, a returned player now at level 1, a human warrior with no title. It displayed his stats, 125 HP, no mana, and a rage system at 0 out of 100 that builds through combat. His attack was 2 to 5, slightly boosted by the wooden stick, while his defense remained basic. His attributes were also listed, showing 5 strength and endurance, 1 intelligence and spirit, and 3 agility and willpower. A sudden surge of power erupted, spreading across the sky like dark cracks tearing through the air. Then multiple system alerts appeared, announcing that the World Quest Demons Offensive had been triggered. Everyone was ordered to defend the gates of Mel Town from the incoming demons and protect the town's guardian crystal. Ling Jia recalled that Mel Town stood on a key front line of the Epic continent and was one of the areas most affected by the Plague Scourge. This caused the level 2 monsters outside the North Gate to become highly aggressive demons that spawned endlessly. He remembered that 1 year after the game's open beta began, Mel Town had completely disappeared from the map. It was most likely wiped out by the same demon army. The players were excited since killing monsters at the North Gate gave high experience, but the guards stopped them. Even though the situation was urgent, they didn't want novice players rushing to the North Gate to die. They advised everyone to go to the other 3 gates, fight weaker monsters, and level up first. But Jia said he wanted to pass through. The guard warned him that once he left the gates, he would lose all novice protection. He replied that he was looking for opponents on his level, even if they were higher level. The guards opened the gates. The system notified him that due to his bravery, his reputation in Mel Town increased by +100. This meant his reputation had reached friendly. He remembered that the game had hidden rules designed to push players beyond their limits. If an NPC believed the player was taking on a high-risk challenge, their favorability would increase, unlocking hidden quests. The guard captain, seeing his resolve, called him a brave adventurer and asked for his help. At the same time, a system prompt appeared. He had triggered a side quest, guard captain's request. Everything was going exactly as planned. He had successfully unlocked a quest that normally shouldn't appear at his level. The guard captain explained that 3 of his men were trapped in the camp of a dreadfiend boss named Chanter Griffin. He begged Ling to retrieve their bodies so they could be buried properly. Ling thought about how defeating enemies above his level could grant bonus rewards. At the same time, this could be his chance to change Mel Town's fate. He told guard captain Lance that what they needed wasn't just a burial. The real solution was to kill the novice killer, Chanter Griffin, and clear the dungeon completely. He knew the boss had to be defeated by someone far below the required level. Because of that, he decided to suppress his level as much as possible before facing it. He was confident that with his skill and deep understanding of the boss's mechanics, he could take down a godlike boss, even at level 1. The guard captain was shocked, asking how he even knew his name. Ling calmly declared that he would rescue the trapped soldiers, defeat Chanter Griffin, and save Mel Town. He told them to prepare for a celebration. The guard captain shook his head, saying it was impossible. Unless a miracle happened, his men were as good as dead. He urged Ling to do what he could and wait for Chanter Griffin to leave. Ling simply said he was that miracle, and deep down he knew the truth. This time, he had nothing to rely on but himself. But in this life, he would use his own hands to change his fate. Moments later, Ling walked around the cemetery. He wondered if the entrance of Beginner Village had already turned into a river of blood. Then he smelled it, and that confirmed everything. Epic was designed with brutal difficulty, almost like the developers had a grudge against the players. Even so, the rewards were so high that players all over the world still rushed in to compete. In the distance, players were already shouting commands. Tanks were told to push forward, while healers were ordered to hold their positions. As the battle began, a group near a campfire realized they were missing a support. One of them pointed out they also lacked a tank and called for experienced players to join. Ling knew that for average players, the safest choice was to form a party. Someone called out to him and asked if he was the idiot who got scammed earlier. He mocked him for still holding his precious wooden stick. One of them clicked his tongue and called the others over to take a look. Ling Jia found them boring. They kept making fun of him, asking if he seriously planned to farm monsters alone as a noob warrior. One laughed and said that with such trash gear, he would eventually end up begging to join a party. Another added that he was just a level 1 warrior with a wooden stick, and the only reason he looked confident was probably because he got carried before. Ling Jia calmly thought that while forming a party reduces risk, it also lowers profit. To him, hunting alone was far more rewarding, up to 5 times the profit compared to being in a party. And once someone was strong enough, parties actually became a disadvantage. Jia slapped the man's hand away. The man fell flat on his butt from the shock. Ling Jia noticed that despite looking sturdy, the knight's body was surprisingly fragile. He guessed that the knight had chosen a retribution-type class as his initial talent. The knight could use holy flames and looked powerful at first glance. But the trade-off was losing 2 strength points, and his body became as fragile as paper. It was basically giving up everything that made a knight strong in close combat. Ling scoffed and called him a ghost fire knight who only hid behind his team. To him, the man was nothing more than a coward. Suddenly, a system alert appeared, warning that a demon had detected them. At the same time, a shadowy creature with glowing red eyes stepped out of the darkness and locked onto them. Another alert showed that the demon's aggro had locked onto Ling Jia. Seeing this, the man immediately ran away. As he fled, he laughed and mocked him, saying he didn't expect this and that the demon would send him back to town for free. Ling Jia instantly understood. The man had purposely drawn the monster's attention and redirected it to him. Still, compared to Balai, this guy at least had some brains. As the demon lunged forward, Jia moved without hesitation. He knew defeating a level 2 demon alone wouldn't be enough to level up. So instead, he decided to use it as a warm-up on the way to his real goal. Watching from a distance, the others were confused, wondering why he wasn't running. They laughed it off, thinking he was just too scared to react. Ling Jia's eyes sharpened as he focused, quietly saying that he could see it. He meant he could see the trajectory of the incoming strike. As the demon swung its weapon down, he slipped past it with ease, triggering a system notification for a perfect dodge. He reflected that a true warrior only grows stronger when facing death. By putting himself in danger, he could draw out the full power of his body. And only by constantly challenging danger could he become the strongest in this life. He struck the monster, landing a critical hit of -6. The demon roared in fury. A system alert appeared, stating that the demon had become enraged, boosting its attack power by 50%. The knight shouted in panic, warning that the monster was using a charged attack and that rushing in now was basically suicide. But instead of backing off, Ling calmly thought the current intensity still wasn't enough. As the attack came, he stepped even closer, deciding he needed to push himself further. He moved in even closer. Seeing the perfect opening, he moved exactly as planned and struck again, triggering a critical hit of -10. The monster let out a pained roar as the strike pierced its body, blood spilling from the wound. Ling was surprised when his attack was suddenly interrupted. Without hesitation, he rushed in again, closing the gap even more. He followed up without pause, unleashing a rapid series of strikes. Each hit landed cleanly, carving into the demon one after another and giving it no chance to recover. A system message appeared, confirming that he had killed a Dread Fiend warrior alone and earned +100 experience and +5 copper coins. Looking at the fallen body, he thought that pushing past his limits was the right way to play the game. Meanwhile, the others stood frozen in disbelief, shocked that he pulled it off using nothing but a wooden stick, wondering if that was even possible for a level 1 noob player. The knight tried to make sense of it, convincing himself it had to be luck, that every hit just happened to be critical. Otherwise, he had no way to explain what he had just seen. A man asked if Ling Jia was a closed beta player of Epic. He said this level of skill couldn't be achieved without hundreds of hours. He offered to team up, saying he needed an expert on his side. Without hesitation, Jia refused, saying he wasn't interested. But the man guessed he was heading toward Chanter Griffin. He knew it required a 5-man party, and their team already had 4 members. They were just missing one. A system prompt appeared, showing he had received an invitation from Rexford to join their party, but he stayed silent. Rexford tried to persuade him, offering to split the profits equally. Ling pointed out that while 5 people were recommended to challenge Chanter Griffin, it wasn't actually a strict requirement. Rexford looked worried and asked if he was really planning to go solo. He told him that in a dungeon like this, relying on just one person's skill wouldn't be enough. He tried to convince him, explaining that Griffin's first kill reward included a special title and legacy equipment. He added that no less than 20 teams were attempting the dungeon, and their group had the best chance among them. Confidently, he even said Ling was lucky they were willing to let him join. One of them warned that in Griffin's second phase, it would summon a few elite monsters. Without a tank, they wouldn't be able to withstand the attacks and would get wiped out instantly. Hearing that, Ling pointed out that what they really needed was a tank, and he just so happened to be a warrior. Rexford quickly waved it off, telling him not to misunderstand. He claimed they thought highly of him and believed his strength was worthy of joining their elite squad. Then, with an awkward smile, he added that it definitely wasn't because they lacked a tank and had no choice but to pull him in. But Ling Jia saw right through them, realizing they just wanted to use him as cannon fodder to draw the boss's attention. This kind of trap was obvious. Rexford asked what he thought, and Ling accepted the invitation. A system prompt appeared, confirming that he had joined Rexford's party. He recalled that dungeon boss battles scaled in difficulty, and rewards adjusted based on the number of participants. If a full 5-man party entered, the boss would switch into full combat mode. In return, defeating it would grant exclusive rewards. He knew that once the hidden quest was completed, Chanter Griffin would be permanently removed. After that, its rewards would be gone for good. In this life, he wanted to reach the top and become the strongest. The reward from this dungeon was the most important step for his early growth. Of course, he was determined to seize this one and only chance and take everything for himself. Ling stood at the entrance of Chanter Griffin's dungeon after clearing the monsters along the way. Corpses were scattered all the way to the entrance. The group criticized him, saying he was wasting his strength before even entering the dungeon. They pointed out how hard it was to get potions in the early game, implying he was being careless and foolish. One of them pointed out that the drop rates were terrible, saying that even killing 100 monsters would only give 2 copper coins. He added that getting a piece of green gear was nearly impossible unless it came from pay-to-win packs. They continued, saying that the number of players who managed to get a green gear drop on the first day of the server launch could be counted on one hand. A system notification suddenly appeared, stating that the wooden stick was looking for a host. One of them stopped him, saying that players couldn't use monster weapons. It was called an unlootable drop. The man explained that if picking up and selling monster weapons were that easy, the game's economy would collapse on the very first day. Ling ignored him and checked for the host that was mentioned. He wondered if the wooden stick actually wanted to fuse with the monster's equipment. A system message appeared as the branch of the world tree began fusing with the weapon in his hand. In a flash of light, the transformation was complete, and he obtained a demon's chipped sword. The new weapon added a bleed effect on critical hits. Its critical rate could drop to -99%, attack was +10, and strength +1. He recognized it immediately, the branch of the world tree, something he had seen at an auction 3 years ago. He recalled that it could change form based on the wielder and surroundings, but for now, it had taken the shape of a wooden stick. One excellent trait of a legacy divine artifact was that it could wrap around any object and turn it into a sword. More precisely, it functioned like a divine sword hilt. In the end, this legacy divine artifact had once been auctioned off for 100 million. He couldn't help but feel surprised that it had ended up with him. Most players only had white trash equipment or were empty-handed at this stage, while even basic monsters were already using green gear. It was clear to him that players and enemies weren't on the same level at all. A system update showed that he had equipped the Dreadfiend's chipped sword. He realized that by using the branch of the world tree to pick up weapons from monsters' hands, he could freely swap and upgrade weapons without any cost. His stats updated as well, showing a clear boost in attack power, while his other attributes stayed the same. He walked forward calmly, his new weapon in hand, as chaos erupted ahead. In the distance, something slammed into the ground, kicking up dust and signaling that the battle had already begun. The battle broke out as players charged forward, shouting to fight to the death and protect Mel Town. They rallied each other with cries of glory, holding the line as the boss, Chanter Griffin, appeared before them. Rexford told him not to rush in, explaining that it was still just the boss battle cutscene and that they could only enter the fight once it ended. Confidently, he explained what would happen next. Within seconds, the three in front would be crushed by a single strike, after which Griffin would enter a recovery phase where its attack speed and damage would drop. He gathered everyone to charge in together shortly. But before he could continue, Ling Jie calmly cut him off, saying he had no interest in finishing this cutscene. He told the guards to abandon the fight and head back quickly, saying Guard Captain Lance was waiting for them to return home. Hearing that, the others were caught off guard, confused by what he was saying. The guards followed his command. His way of fighting was to jump straight into battle. The cutscene could be skipped, but it came at a price players had to pay. The others were shocked, calling him crazy for charging the boss head-on. Rexford quickly told everyone to stay out of the boss's aggro range and decided to just let Jia get himself killed. The payoff for interrupting the cutscene was that the enemy would release stronger hostility toward whoever rushed in first. That role usually belonged to a tank warrior who drew aggro. But Jia wasn't just being stubborn. He had a reason for doing this. The world line had changed, and the direction of the quest could change as well. In this life, Jia was the butterfly disrupting that world line. He was changing destiny. With that resolve, he charged forward and clashed head-on with the boss. Rexford admitted they had tricked several cannon fodders before to test the boss and were just waiting for it to slaughter that idiot and enter the recovery phase so they could steal the first kill rewards. But one party member worried that Ling would take a share of their experience and rewards since the system split everything equally among party members. Of course, Rexford had no intention of giving him that chance. In the middle of the battle, a system alert appeared. Rexford had kicked Ling Jia from the party. Jia parried the next strike. He had just confirmed his suspicion that they had been luring newcomers here to die and lower the difficulty of raiding the boss. They believed that Chanter Griffin, which was hard to defeat even with a 5-man party, was impossible for a level 1 player to kill. But they miscalculated. He wasn't a novice. He unleashed his power and declared himself a warrior reborn from hell. His presence alone shook the battlefield, leaving the enemy stunned as they faced him head-on. A powerful strike echoed across the area, the impact tearing through the air with a loud ripping sound. Hearing it, Rexford and his party froze, wondering if they had heard correctly. It sounded like something had just been ripped apart. Ling charged in without hesitation, shouting for the enemy to face him head-on. With explosive speed, he swung his weapon, each strike hitting with overwhelming force. As he fought, he called for his sword to become sharper, pushing his power even further. A system effect activated, boosting his attack power while wielding the sword, making each blow even stronger. As the party watched the fight, they were shocked to see the boss's health actually dropping. It made them realize that he wasn't struggling, he was holding his ground and fighting the boss evenly. The battlefield erupted as Chanter Griffin released a surge of dark energy, signaling a shift in the fight. A system alert confirmed that the boss had entered its second phase. Empowered by the transformation, Chanter Griffin unleashed a stronger, more violent attack toward him. Ling Jia placed himself right in the most dangerous position. Even as the dark energy rushed toward him, he remained calm, ready to face it without backing down. The others watched in shock, thinking he had lost his mind for trying to parry a boss-level charged attack. They were convinced he was as good as dead and began preparing themselves, expecting it would soon be their turn to step in. A massive explosion erupted as the attack collided, sending a shockwave across the area. It was Chanter Griffin's attack. Amid the explosion, Ling stood firm, meeting it head-on. He admitted that to others, choosing the warrior class, something most people believed had no future, seemed unbelievable, but they simply refused to understand. He said not everyone in this world was born with the right to choose. He recalled that 5 years ago, before the game launched in his previous life, professions were priced based on a player's wealth. Only the rich could afford to choose top-tier damage classes. Players without money had no real choice. They were pushed into unpopular support roles or treated as expendable cannon fodder. He remembered hearing that the warrior class was only available briefly at launch, and it was often recommended to those who just wanted to grind and earn money. And as a common player, he discovered a shocking truth. To firmly seize opportunities, he had to give up all other options. Rexford was in disbelief, insisting that at level 1, blocking that kind of attack was impossible. But in Ling Jie's mind, he knew the truth. By using the lowest cost yet most intense training method, he could push himself further than ordinary players ever could. A system tip appeared, showing a technique called grip amplification, allowing him to firmly hold his weapon and even use it like a shield. He made his rebirth count and gripped the sword tightly in his hands. He trusted it completely, just as he trusted himself. A system alert appeared, signaling that Chanter Griffin had exposed an opening. He reminded himself that by giving up all other options, he gained countless opportunities. He charged toward the monster with unwavering resolve. He thought that even if his enemies were as powerful as gods, it wouldn't matter. To him, anything standing in his way would fall. With absolute determination, he declared that he would become the strongest. Ling charged at Chanter Griffin with the intent to end the fight. Chanter Griffin attacked at the same time. His body flared with blazing energy as he cut Chanter Griffin in half. The system notified that he had successfully killed Chanter Griffin. He landed lightly on the ground. With his current base stats, he realized it was still a bit of a stretch to withstand the boss's heavy attacks, but thanks to the warrior's health advantage, he still had a sliver of HP left. The system notified that he had killed the level 5 boss Chanter Griffin, gaining a 500% experience bonus and 2,350 experience points. He also reached level 2. Ling Jie, a human warrior, currently had no title. His health was at 145 points, with no mana, and rage at 0 out of 100. His basic attacks generated rage, while skills consumed it. His attack power was 13 to 14, boosted by plus 12 from equipment. His defense was 11. Strength was 8 plus 1, intelligence 7, agility 4, constitution 1, spirit 1, and luck 3. Rexford couldn't believe what he was seeing. He couldn't accept that the Griffin had been defeated before even reaching its second phase. The system announced that the time-limited quest was complete, and Ling was the first player in God's domain to kill Chanter Griffin. Meltown's reputation increased by 200, and his personal reputation there exceeded 300. Since Chanter Griffin was killed by a non-upgraded player who completed the mission for whom the bell tolls, the boss and its demon legion would permanently disappear from the world of Epic, restoring peace to Meltown. Chanter Griffin's body began to glow brightly. Rexford insisted that Ling must have used a bug, calling it an unfair victory. He ordered his party members to pick up the loot on the ground, reasoning that since they came together, they should still get most of the drops even if they didn't fight. But one of his party members said he couldn't pick anything up. The system notified that he didn't have the qualification to loot. The man panicked, confused about why he couldn't claim the rewards, realizing he didn't meet the requirements. Then the truth hit them. Chanter Griffin had been defeated entirely by Ling Jie. Stunned, he connected the dots and realized that Ling had been removed from the party just before the kill. Rexford shouted in frustration, yelling that the drops had nothing to do with them anymore. An item appeared, Chanter Griffin's Golden Bell, a legacy divine artifact. It granted a powerful protection effect that could block a fatal attack once and knock back enemies when shattered. Ling didn't expect it to be so small. He casually reached out and called the loot to him. Coins spun through the air in a bright swirl, flying straight toward him. Hawk, who tried to grab the loot, cursed loudly as he watched it fly away. He complained in frustration, wondering why Ling got to keep everything. Rexford tried to calm Hawk down, saying it didn't matter, even if Ling took all the rewards. They quickly came up with a new plan. According to the game's rules, a player who died would drop all the loot they obtained within 24 hours. So, they decided to kill Ling, so the Griffin's rewards would still belong to them. Hawk hesitated, reminding the group that Ling had just defeated Griffin alone and that his strength was far beyond what they expected. The marksman activated a skill to assess Ling's condition and saw that his health was only at 3%. Confidently, he concluded that even a light hit would be enough to finish him off. Rexford told everyone to switch to player versus player mode. They planned to let Jie enter the dungeon first, then kill him inside to make sure he wouldn't come out alive. They quietly moved behind him. Ling was checking his loot. Killing a boss had earned him 100 copper coins and a large amount of alchemy materials. The current price of one copper coin was 12,000 yen, so the total was 1.2 million. He had just made a fortune in a single day. Rexford approached with a mocking smile, sarcastically congratulating him and admitting he had real skill. Ling's tone turned cold as he accused him of betraying their cooperation and kicking him out of the party. He told him it was already too late for apologies. Rexford quickly changed his tone, pretending they had trusted him all along and chose not to interfere because of his strength. He praised him for defeating a 5-man difficulty boss alone, calling it impressive. He added that he and the others should at least get some credit for it, too. A system warning appeared stating that Ling Jie had suffered a fatal heavy wound. Before returning to a safe zone, his maximum health was drastically reduced and all his stats were cut in half. Rex told him they had already figured out his background and that it was the end for him. They reminded him that the people he had dealt with were part of the infamous Rex's villain gang. Their rule was simple: kill monsters and players alike. They cooperated, but they also betrayed. The archer aimed at Ling Jie. While Rexford told him it was time to hand everything over, the archer released a powerful arrow. Ling recognized it as the hunter's skill Eagle Eye. It greatly increased accuracy, almost guaranteeing a hit in open areas. He realized the archer had intentionally missed. He asked them what they meant. Rexford made it clear. It wasn't just Griffin's loot he wanted. He demanded everything, including the wooden stick, his equipment, and everything else he had. He added that if Ling begged for mercy, they might spare his life. With a cruel smirk, he said he wanted Ling to leave the Hill of Sinners completely bare so everyone could witness his humiliation. He burst into laughter, imagining Ling as a bare-assed warrior, a pauper who thought he could reach the heavens in one leap just because he got lucky and triggered the boss's weakness. In his eyes, Ling Jie was nothing more than an idiot crawling at the very bottom of society. Since it had come to this, Ling Jie had no intention of letting that happen. To him, they were nothing more than obstacles on his path to becoming stronger. He said he would step over them without a second thought and keep moving forward. They weren't even worth remembering. He smirked confidently and challenged them to come at him if they had the courage. This was exactly what he wanted. Since he refused them, they charged to kill him. The archer activated Eagle Eye. Ling used the bell. It blocked every attack. The clash triggered a powerful explosion. Rex's team grew annoyed at the divine artifact left by Chanter Griffin. Hawk asked what the golden bell did. He wondered if it granted invincibility. Ling replied that it wasn't invincibility. It just bought him 1 second of breathing room. Hawk scoffed, asking what difference 1 second could make. Ling answered that upgrading a skill enhancement only took 1 second. After that, he could crush the 3 of them completely. The system notified that he used 1 free skill point to learn an exclusive warrior skill. The skill was Death's Respite. When near death, he could activate it to recover a small amount of health. If he was in an extreme state or surrounded by enemies, it would restore a massive amount of HP. It could even exceed the warrior's maximum health limit. The archer was stunned when he saw Ling's health fully recover. They couldn't understand how he did it. He had even broken past the limits of his heavy injuries. Ling asked if they wanted to witness power from hell. The mage told his team not to panic, pointing out that Ling's sword was still stuck in the ground. He ordered them to focus fire. Ling rushed forward. Rex froze in shock. He was about to say something, but the archer was already hit. A powerful punch sent him flying. Rex and the mage were stunned by how fast he was. On top of that, he had killed the archer with a single punch. Ling activated grip enhancement. When fighting unarmed, he gained boosted combat power. Rex shouted for Meshi, the mage, to use Ice Burst to control him. The mage cast Ice Burst, freezing Ling in place. Then Hawk charged in with his greatsword, saying he had been annoyed with him for a long time. But Jia shifted his body just an inch, causing the blade to slam into the ice instead. The impact shattered the frozen binding. He pulled back his fist, and with a single punch, he blasted Hawk away. Meshi couldn't believe that his Ice Burst failed to hold him. Ling explained that as long as his strength stat was high enough, he could break free by force. That level of frost magic was nothing more than child's play to him. Meshi argued that he saw Ling Jie's stats get cut in half due to the heavy injuries, so he couldn't understand how his strength was still that high. Then he noticed the battle aura wrapped around Ling Jie's body. He realized that Ling's stats didn't look reduced at all. He told the archer to use Eagle Eye to check Ling's stats. Ling stepped forward and grabbed Meshi's hand, telling him there was no need, because he had already sent that archer back to the respawn point earlier. Meshi panicked, insisting something was wrong. He claimed Jia was using a cheat program, that Jia was a hacker. Those words triggered Ling Jia's painful memories. It reminded him of when Chang Cheng betrayed him. Back then, Chang Cheng declared that Ling Jia had lost. Ling Jia had sworn he would never fall to that level. So hearing Meshi say that made his anger boil. He twisted Meshi's fingers, calling him scum for accusing others of cheating when he couldn't win. Overwhelmed by the pain, Meshi begged for mercy. He said he surrendered and promised to leave Rex's villain gang if Ling let him go. But it was too late. Ling used Power Punch on him and sent him flying straight into a building. When Meshi crashed, he blasted a hole through it. Someone stepped forward and told Ling that he had just thrown away his last advantage as a warrior. Rex already understood how Ling used his skills to gain the upper hand. He knew that in disadvantageous situations, Ling could unleash bursts of strength, especially when surrounded by multiple enemies. The system notified that the warrior trait Last Stand meant that when under siege, his stats would increase significantly. The under siege status required at least 3 enemies surrounding him to activate. Rex understood this well, and now that he was the only one left, Last Stand could no longer trigger. Ling admitted that he would send him back to town with a single sword strike, fair and square. Rex pointed out that Ling didn't understand his current situation. He explained that he was a professional killer who specialized in hunting players, especially in one-on-one fights. He was confident that he had the advantage. Rex declared that he would take Ling's pathetic life. The killer class trait was weak point strike, meaning every hit would stack debuffs on the target. Different strikes caused different effects. Arms would be disabled, legs crippled, the torso would bleed, and the most dangerous hit was to the head, which would cause blindness. Once hit, a player would quickly be buried under layers of debuffs. Rex admitted that Ling had solid skills. Even while wielding a clumsy greatsword, his speed could keep up. But close-range combat was his domain. Once someone got hit, even if the damage looked small, the stacked debuffs would slowly overwhelm them. He declared that soon Ling would be on his knees, begging for a quick death. Ling thought about it and solved the problem by creating distance. Rex watched as Ling sliced a building in half and realized that even with reduced stats, his attacks were still dangerously strong. He acknowledged that a warrior's early game power couldn't be underestimated. Still, Rexford believed that in a prolonged battle of attrition, Ling would eventually lose. But Ling had no intention of playing that game. He burst forward with explosive speed, telling Rexford to repent as he faced the resurrection crystal alone. Rex was stunned by the sudden attack. The next moment, he was completely stripped. He stood there in shock, realizing he had respawned at the resurrection crystal. A system message confirmed he had just been killed by Ling Jia. He also suffered a level penalty, dropping from level 3 to level 2, with all attributes reduced. He couldn't process what had just happened. His party members started laughing at him. They told him that all his clothes and equipment had been taken. A system message confirmed it: players drop all items obtained within the last 24 hours upon death. Rex's face turned red. The others pointed out that everything he had looted hadn't even been in his possession for 24 hours. He exploded in rage, humiliated that Ling Jia had stripped him of everything in front of everyone. He swore he wasn't done yet and that he would get his revenge, no matter what. Meanwhile, Ling Jia realized that his strike had only sent Rex back to the respawn point. Everything he dropped was still lying there. Hawk regained consciousness. He was relieved he had focused on defense, otherwise, he would have been sent back to town in one hit. But he froze when he realized none of his teammates were around. Then he locked eyes with Ling Jia. Panic hit him instantly. He warned Ling not to come any closer, his confidence completely gone. Ling calmly told him to take Rex's clothes back and deliver a message. If they ever crossed paths again, he would kill them until their levels dropped back to 0. Hawk quickly said he understood. He was shaking. Fear twisted his stomach. He tried to hold it in, but ended up throwing up anyway. He couldn't comprehend the overwhelming power he felt from Ling. It wasn't something stats could measure anymore. To him, it felt like facing the Grim Reaper, a god of war returned from hell. The system announced that he had successfully resisted malicious PvP from other players, earning a massive amount of reputation. His reputation in Meltown increased by 300. As a result, his reputation reached follower level, surpassing 600 points. He gained a special status in town. NPCs would now actively support him, form stronger relationships, and unlock exclusive privileges. Even though he had been targeted, Jia knew this wasn't a loss. To him, it was a great trade. With everything settled, he decided to head back to town and rest. Jia returned to town, and the moment he entered, he was greeted with a grand welcome. Guards lined the path before him, all kneeling in respect. He paused, confused about what was happening. The townspeople stepped forward and offered him Meltown's highest honor, the miraculous Lord, Blade of Dawn. A system notification appeared, confirming that he had obtained a legendary title. The other players were stunned, unable to understand why NPCs were bowing to a player. They had no idea what the Blade of Dawn title meant. Curious, some wondered if it was something only top-paying players could unlock and how expensive it must be, but others pointed out that even big spenders had never seen anything like it. The Blade of Dawn was a title Ling had heard of during a dungeon in his previous life. 3 years ago, the world was still trapped in a long, endless night. Everything was swallowed by darkness. The world had once been caught in the epic of eternal night. Monsters ran wild. The fire of civilization flickered, barely holding on. During that time, a legendary human warrior appeared. With only a great sword in hand, he became the one who brought the first light into the endless dark. From that moment on, he became the symbol of breaking the night. He led the allied forces of every faction into the final battle at the darkest hour before dawn. In the end, he brought a new world into the light. His nameless figure stood at the edge of a cliff, the morning light shining behind him. With his blade glowing like the rising sun, he raised it high. The title Blade of Dawn was meant for those brave enough to stand against evil. Ling recalled that before the game launched, there were 8 legacy titles heavily promoted. Each one represented a legendary hero from the history of Epic. The developers had hinted that these weren't just lore, they were likely hidden achievements or extremely rare honor rewards. But he had never heard of anyone actually obtaining one. And yet now, the legacy title Blade of Dawn, one of the 8 great titles, was in his hands, right here in the beginner village of Meltown. As the townspeople welcomed him as the Blade of Dawn, even Ling didn't expect a reward this big. Ling, now addressed as Lord Blade of Dawn, was told that his actions had moved the entire town to tears of gratitude. A guard informed him that Mayor Oliver Green wished to personally host a welcome banquet in his honor. The system notified him that the side quest hero of Meltown had been activated. He was to proceed to the town council hall. The guard offered to escort him personally, but Ling refused, saying there was no need in telling him to return to his post. He knew that being too flashy would only attract unnecessary attention, so it was better to keep a low profile. As he walked away, someone watched from the shadows, gripping a blade. It was Rexford. He planned to ambush Ling the moment he stepped into a quiet alley. He swore to stab him in the back. Meshi suggested backing off, pointing out that the entire town's NPCs now respected Ling. Going against him could ruin their standing and their livelihood in Meltown. But Rexford refused. Their infamy already made them feared, and as long as they could kill Ling, there would always be people willing to follow them. Hawk asked if he had a plan to make Ling suffer. Rex admitted that outside he didn't have full control, but here in Meltown, he was the villain, and that gave him influence no one else had. A guard suddenly spotted them and warned that even during celebrations, drawing weapons in public was strictly forbidden. Rex was caught red-handed holding 2 daggers. He quickly made an excuse, saying they were just discussing business. He complained that the rules were so strict that one couldn't even play the game properly. The guard warned them that malicious players were being closely monitored and reminded them to behave, especially since they already had a record. As the guard walked away, Rexford smirked. Even Meltown had its dark side. Under his breath, he muttered Ling Jie's name. Clearly, he wasn't done with him yet. Meanwhile, Jia arrived at the town hall and headed straight for the mayor's office. Without hesitation, he reached for the door and stepped inside. As he entered, the mayor immediately recognized him as the Blade of Dawn. With a wide smile, he warmly welcomed him, saying he had finally arrived. The mayor thanked him sincerely, saying the nightmare that had haunted the town for years was finally over. He was relieved that Chanter Griffin had been completely eliminated. He praised Jia's actions, saying they not only saved the town, but also countless lives. To him, this was a historic achievement, one worth remembering. Jia recalled that in his previous life, Mayor Green had been an intimidating NPC. It was likely due to years of exhaustion from constant battles against demons, which had worn him down both mentally and physically. But in this life, the mayor looked far better, and even his personality had changed. Ling realized it was simply because he had stepped in earlier and changed the outcome. To honor his bravery and kindness, the mayor made a formal proposal on behalf of the townspeople. They planned to build a golden statue of him in the central plaza so that everyone who came to Meltown would know his legend, and through it, they would feel the radiance of the Blade of Dawn. Ling thanked him but said that kind of recognition meant nothing to him. He knew that other players' lives wouldn't truly change just because a statue appeared in a novice town. Instead, he made a different proposal. The mayor agreed immediately and even offered anything in return: gold, a noble title, or any reward worthy of his achievements. Ling explained that now that the Griffin threat was gone, the military funds and resources prepared to fight it should be used in more practical ways to benefit everyone. He suggested two things. First, to implement a long-term tax reduction for adventurers in the town's trading venues. This would lower the growth cost for new players and make Meltown a more welcoming starting point. Second, to strengthen the town's security and patrol forces to prevent future threats, ensuring both residents and travelers could live in peace. The mayor was deeply moved. Unlike others who chased fame and power, Ling genuinely cared about everyone. Impressed by his foresight, the mayor immediately agreed and promised to carry out the plan at once. Suddenly, a system announcement echoed across the town. From that moment on, the tax rate for all trading in Meltown, between players, NPCs, and both, was permanently reduced by 50%. This was a reward for the outstanding contributions of a novice hero. The town erupted in excitement. Players were stunned to learn that taxes had been cut in half. Some thought only wealthy players could cause such a change. Others were simply relieved they could finally afford basic items like potions. Grateful voices filled the streets, praising Meltown and thanking whoever made it happen. Seeing this, the mayor grew emotional. He said Ling had truly brought the light of dawn to the town and won the hearts of everyone. As a token of personal gratitude, the mayor handed Ling a key. It was for a vacant two-story house on the outskirts of town. He explained that while it was simple, the location was peaceful and overlooked the windmill fields. He then gave him a brass key along with the land deed, officially granting the property to him. With sincerity, he asked Ling Jie to accept it as a reward. In his name as mayor, he invited Jie to settle in Meltown and make it his true home. Jie was stunned. The system notified him that he had obtained the first player-owned independent property in Epic. With the Windmill View residence, his name was now recorded in the town's history. He could hardly believe it. He now owned property in Epic. This was something that had once been completely out of reach. In a game controlled by a freely evolving master AI, so realistic it felt like a second world, land scarcity was a core rule. This wasn't like other games where rich players could throw money around, buy entire streets, or make NPCs serve them. Every piece of land already had an owner, either a system-controlled city, a native tribe, or even a lair occupied by overwhelmingly powerful monsters. At most, players could only rent temporary usage rights or small workshop spaces. Even if a guild spent massive resources and reputation to claim territory, they could still lose it at any time due to weak defenses or system intervention. But this, a private space that fully belonged to him, was an unimaginable advantage in the early game. Whether for storage, skill research, or future expansions, its value was enormous. Ling thanked Mayor Green sincerely, saying he truly appreciated the gift. The mayor replied that Ling choosing to live there was far more meaningful than any golden statue in the central plaza. The system granted him new privileges within Meltown. He unlocked teleportation within the town and could instantly repair his equipment. He also gained access to a remote auction house. On top of that, all his expenses in town would now have a permanent 15% discount. The system message ended by wishing him to be favored by Dawn forever. Ling smiled. After that, Ling walked through the city. With the discount the mayor had given him, he figured it was the perfect time to restock. Suddenly, a system notification popped up. He had been pickpocketed and had lost 100 copper coins. A figure in a red robe smiled, clearly pleased with the theft. Ling immediately grabbed the robe and demanded that she give it back, but in the next instant, she vanished into thin air. Ling clenched his jaw, annoyed that he had been robbed in broad daylight. He realized that Meltown still needed stronger security. Without wasting another second, he chased after her. They ended up in a dark alley. Ling told her to stop running. There was nowhere left to go. She smirked and said he had it backward. This was her territory. The figure revealed herself as a dark street lowlife, a level 3 elite hooligan. More men stepped out from the shadows, blocking his escape. Jia recalled that Mel Town still had a hidden dark side. One key figure stood out, the manager of the dark street, Xiaolian. She studied him with a smirk, noting how well informed he was, even suspecting he might be a closed beta player. In his previous life, Jia had been targeted by these dark street NPCs more than once. He knew exactly how this worked. Keeping it simple, she told him someone had paid for his life. He had been marked for death. Jia quickly ran through the possibilities. So far, he had only offended 2 people, Paladin Belai and Rexford from Rex's villain gang. He asked who wanted him dead. With a knowing smile, she said he already knew the answer. There was no need to spell it out. Ling smirked, saying Rexford no longer had the courage to face him directly and could only resort to hiring others. She shrugged and clarified that she was just an NPC who handled transactions. To her, player grudges meant nothing. It was all business. Then she gave the order to kill him. The men behind Ling Jia rushed forward. Ling Jia drew his sword and turned to meet them. Their clash exploded through the narrow alley. In an instant, they were cut down. Xiaolian raised a brow, clearly impressed. Ling asked if she wanted to try next. She paused, calculating. Robbing him now would be bad business. If things went wrong, the payment she received might not even cover her men's medical costs. Seeing the situation clearly, she ordered her men to retreat. Even together, they weren't a match for the Blade of Dawn, she added calmly. Even NPCs calculated profit and loss when doing business. She decided to send a message back to Rexford through this encounter. Her report would say that she tried her best, but the pressure was too much, and she had no choice but to back down midway. She waved goodbye playfully, calling him Little Blade of Dawn. Before leaving, she added that if he ever visited the dark street again, he could just mention her name. Jia suddenly stopped her, his expression turning cold. She turned back, slightly annoyed, pointing out that she was already letting him go. But instead of backing down, he demanded the bag of copper coins she had taken. She reminded him that she had already shown mercy by sparing his life. Amused, she said he still dared to bargain with her even after that. To her, that bag of coins was simply the price he paid for surviving. But to Jia, it was money he had earned with his own strength. A heavy aura began to rise from his body as he told her that she made money with her own skills too. She unsheathed her sword, saying she would be taking both his bounty and his money instead. Ling charged forward. Their blades collided, but in the next instant, his sword snapped in half. She calmly told him that she wielded a weapon of destruction. Ling narrowed his eyes, sensing something was wrong. In his previous life, she had only been a normal merchant in the black market run by NPCs. She had casually offered to lend him money to buy a new weapon just because she found him handsome. She felt completely different. It made him wonder what exactly had changed this time. Ling clenched his fists. Even if he had to fight barehanded, he was ready. He wasn't letting her go that easily. She could tell he was trying to provoke her, but to her, it felt outdated. Still, she wasn't in a bad mood, so she didn't mind trading a few blows. With a sly smile, she called her men and told them to start the Dark Street's welcome ceremony. The crowd roared like fanatics, shouting that their boss was invincible. Full of confidence, she charged straight at Jia. Jia was caught off guard. Luckily, he dodged at the last second, losing only a strand of hair. She followed up with another attack. He blocked her kick with his forearms. This girl was starting to annoy him. He quickly realized she was actually strong. He lunged forward. Their fists collided at the center. She tried to kick him again, but he dodged. She praised his quick reflexes. She aimed for a cheap shot, but he caught her wrist just in time. He tightened his grip and raised his fist. She froze for a moment, then pulled away immediately. He said it was time to end the fight. His punch slammed into the wall, cracking it. The impact barely grazed her cheek. She found it interesting. Without a blade, she couldn't bring him down. He asked if she still thought fighting was worth it. From here on, she'd lose more than she'd gain. She stood there, stunned. Then she burst out laughing. Now she found him truly interesting. She lost all interest in fighting. She handed his pouch back. She knew she had already wasted enough time. She called her men, and they all left. He muttered that she was a strange woman. He noticed the pouch felt different now. For a second, he thought she had used some kind of illusion. Then he looked inside and froze. There was an eyeball. Along with it was a message from her. She said it was a meeting gift and that she looked forward to working with him. He frowned, confused about what the gift really meant. The eyeball suddenly glowed, then shot straight into his eye. He dropped to his knees, hit by sharp, unbearable pain. Suddenly, the system announced that he had obtained a rare divine artifact, the Eye of True Sight. It looked like a dried-up eyeball, somehow linked to a fallen ancient god. Even though it had been abandoned, it granted him a powerful pseudo-skill, letting him see through illusions and uncover the truth. He didn't expect a reward like this. It was something he had never even heard of before. Now he couldn't help but think this version of Meltown was far more interesting than he remembered. Later, at the market, he looked around, searching for anything useful. A man selling black stones caught his eye. He stepped closer and checked the goods. Blackstone was the most common basic mineral in Epic. Players who spent all their time mining for magic crystal or had collapsed countless times because of it. Over time, the stuff piled up like mountains in players' warehouses. It took too much space and wasn't even worth selling. Recently, it had become trash, something people practically gave away for free. Suddenly, the Eye of True Sight activated. He didn't expect it to trigger on its own. Then, he noticed something in the pile of stones. One crystal looked different from the rest. The eye completed its appraisal. It was a starlight stone. Ling was stunned. He didn't expect the Eye of True Sight to be this powerful. He had just found treasure by casually walking around. Ling decided to secure it first, then study it later. He asked the seller if he was selling it, and the man happily said yes. The seller tried to flatter him and, inside, thought the man was such a sucker. Deep down, the seller didn't expect that a piece of trash stone could earn him a copper coin. He felt lucky. Ling crushed the gem and obtained the flameless starlight stone. Through its outer disguise, it was something normal appraisal couldn't detect at all. He wasn't surprised that it had been mistaken for a worthless scrap stone and tossed aside like trash. But now he knew that if he sold it directly to an NPC, it would be worth far more than 100 copper coins. He recalled that the starlight stone had another special use. When dismantled, it could turn into a rare material for alchemy. He wanted to maximize its value, so he decided to try alchemy. In the world of Epic, players enjoyed a lot of freedom when choosing lifestyle professions. Many even made lifestyle roles like tailor, blacksmith, and gem crafter their main class. The entry level for these professions was easy, almost like an extension of real life, serving as a nice break from combat. Because of that, most players tried one or two. However, there was one lifestyle profession that was different. Not only was it hard to enter and expensive, but the process itself was dangerous. One small mistake could cause an explosion and kill you instantly. This was alchemy, and its curse. He opened the interface and decided to first check the current prices of alchemy products. The listing showed that a medium health potion cost 10 copper coins, with purchases limited to 1 bottle per day. If he followed the official crafting recipe, the material cost would be more than 1 copper coin, higher than the selling price. He saw that moonlight moss cost 2 copper coins, 2 sunflower nectars cost 5 copper coins, hemostasis herb cost 1 copper coin, while clean water and medium crystal bottles had almost no value. Just by looking at it, he knew it would be a loss. On top of that, alchemists usually had a high failure rate, often around 60%, making production even more expensive. Because of this, the real cost of potions was nearly double their listed price. This was why most players avoided alchemy. The more they invested, the more money they lost. But since he had lived in this world for years before, he already knew the hidden recipes for certain potions. Originally, even if he knew the recipe, he couldn't craft it. He lacked the most important material, which was starlight stone powder. But now, this unexpected find gave him the perfect chance to make a profit. Meanwhile, someone was spying on him and noticed that he was buying something again. The other spy told him not to mind it and just secretly follow him, hoping to take advantage and earn money from whatever he was doing. Since Ling had the Blade of Dawn title, they assumed he was very familiar with the system economy from the closed beta. The man saw him buy a black stone at the previous stall, so he bought one too. The other spy admitted that he was convinced and ended up buying the whole stack. Ironically, the seller began to wonder if he had sold the black stones too cheaply. Ling Jie bought enough medium crystal bottles in basic materials like verdant grass leaves. It was enough for him to craft 100 medium health potions. Then, using the rare material, he successfully created flawless starlight stone powder. One spy wondered what he had just crushed. His friend called him an idiot. He guessed that it was the black stone Ling had bought and that Ling was trying to make high-grade goods with the black stone as the key material. They decided to copy him. They crushed the black stones in their hands and got cuttlefish stone powder and blue forage powder. Originally, the grass leaf essence could only be turned into weak herbal juice. Ling poured the grass leaf essence into the bottle. Then he added the starlight stone powder. With the catalyst effect, the weak herbal mixture was instantly boosted into something much stronger. But that wasn't the end. The spies saw him heading toward the fountain and thought he was about to perform some high-tier ritual. It made sense to them, since crafting like this should require a proper environment. As they watched closely, they came up with another guess about what he was doing. To their surprise, Ling Jie simply filled the bottle with water, and the liquid inside turned green. The system notified him that he had obtained a medium health potion. Jie was satisfied. Its appearance matched the one sold in the shop, and the effect was the same. The spies thought he was making fake potions. He kept repeating the process, and he successfully crafted 100 medium health potions. The system rewarded him with a huge amount of alchemy experience, and his level rose quickly. Seeing the results, he realized that his past knowledge could now be turned straight into money. People noticed the bottles near the fountain and asked how much he was selling them for. More players came over and even tried to buy in bulk. In just 1 hour, everything he made was completely sold out. Since he priced them slightly lower than the shop, they sold instantly. Some were even resold at a higher price. In the end, his original 100 copper coins turned into 1,000 in just an hour. He was glad. The Griffin's reward had now multiplied 10 times. The spies finally realized they had underestimated him, and what he was selling was real medicine. They figured his method was likely secret knowledge from the closed beta. If it became public, it could shake the entire game economy. Seeing the opportunity, they planned to exploit it and get rich before the system fixed the loophole. Thinking it was easy, they tried to copy the process, believing alchemy was simple. But they ended up with a bottle of toxic potion instead. They doubted the recipe was wrong since they had watched every step. The guy who made it told his friend it was a health potion, just a different color. His friend asked if he dared to drink it, and just like that, the system notified that the player Jabba had killed himself. The commotion caught Ling's attention. The crowd became curious about what was happening. They couldn't believe someone had just killed himself. But Ling knew they had tried alchemy blindly without understanding the recipe, and they had suffered the curse of alchemy. He could only wish the guy better luck next time. Moving on to his next plan, he needed to log off and deal with his newly earned wealth. Ling logged off. At his house, he removed the VR helmet while calculating the exchange rate, noting that 1 copper coin was worth 10,000 yuan. Before logging off, he had already exchanged 50 copper coins through the trading platform. Shortly after, he received confirmation that 5 million yuan had been deposited into his account. He was impressed by how fast it was. Suddenly, he heard someone enter. A group of men barged into their home, demanding repayment and making threats. His mother and sister were caught off guard. They said the payment wasn't due yet since the month had just started, and the deadline was at the end of the month. The leader of the thugs admitted he had originally planned to collect at the end of the month, but he had lost 1 million in Epic. Threatening them, he warned that if he didn't get his money back right away, things would get ugly. Ling's mother apologized, saying they didn't have the money yet. She begged for a few more days. The leader of the thugs didn't believe her. Then they grabbed Ling's sister. His mother called out to Shishi, his sister. He grabbed the mother and made a disgusting remark about her daughter, treating her like something to be sold. Terrified, they tried to resist as he mocked their son for hiding instead of helping. He called the kid useless. He even suggested the kid should come out and do hard labor. At the very least, his organs could be sold for money. He was stunned when someone suddenly asked if it was 1 million. It was Ling Jie. He transferred the money and asked if that was enough. They laughed at him, thinking he was bluffing, until they received a notification that 1 million yuan had arrived in their account. They froze. One of the henchmen told the boss to check his account. Ling Jie calmly asked if it was enough. Shishi asked if he robbed a bank. His mother asked where he got the money. The leader of the thugs started to realize something while his henchmen confirmed the payment. It was real. The leader grabbed Ling by the collar. He knew this brat was just a useless shut-in gamer. There was no way he could have 1 million. Ling told his mother to go inside. The thug demanded to know how he did it. Ling answered that he was just a gamer. So, of course, he made money by playing games. The leader of the thugs was furious. He had lost 1 million, while Ling had just earned it. He declared that the money Ling sent wasn't repayment, but compensation for his gaming losses. Ling knew that was just extortion. The man reached out to grab Ling Jie, but Ling Jie quickly caught his wrist and twisted it. The man was shocked by how fast he moved. Ling Jie said he wasn't only good at playing games. He twisted the man's arm harder, making him scream. The man couldn't believe this was the same useless gamer. Ling calmly said he was 100% that person. The other men started to get restless, but their boss told them not to move. He was already trembling as he begged Ling to settle this peacefully. Ling felt disgusted hearing the man call him brother. The man noticed his overwhelming presence. To him, it felt like an evil spirit had come back from hell. Ling asked if he still wanted to extort him. The man quickly said it was all a misunderstanding and that he was just trying to make a living. He added there was no need to make things ugly. Since Ling had already paid, they had no reason to cause trouble, so he begged to be let go. He asked his men if they agreed. Of course, they followed their boss. Ling Jie told them to get out of his house immediately. They rushed out without hesitation. Shishi and their mother watched them leave. Shishi even shouted at them, saying they were rude, and if she saw them again, she'd ask her brother to beat them up. The men quickly replied they wouldn't dare come back. Then Shishi turned to her brother and asked for an explanation. Jie was confused and asked what he needed to explain. She pointed out that a millionaire had suddenly appeared in their house. That made him nervous. He wondered how to explain everything without making his family worry. Ling thought about how good it felt to be reborn. This time, his sister was healthy and alive. In his past life, his father died and his sister was very sick, leaving his family in huge debt. He had to carry the weight of the whole family. He went around holding his resume. People told him to go back and wait in case any opportunity came up. Back then, jobs were hard to find, and life as a normal person was rough. He struggled to get stable work and could barely survive. Until one day, he passed by a mascot inviting people to play Epic. They said it was an endless world full of unknowns, with countless riches waiting for players to find. He could even make money just by playing games. And that was the real reason he started playing. He was a bit ashamed to admit it. He was just a rookie warrior. Then a gold farming group leader approached him because they needed someone who wasn't afraid to die. They told him that each run would pay 2 copper coins. He didn't hesitate and accepted right away. Every fight he entered felt like he was one step from death. But as long as he stayed alive, he could earn money. The leader soon noticed that Ling was hard to kill. He pointed out that Ling always survived until the very end. To others, it looked suspicious, like he was cheating. Ling said nothing. Seeing his effort, the leader gave him 1 extra copper coin. He told him to keep working hard and continue supporting them. Ling felt upset. By constantly facing life and death fights, his combat skills slowly improved. Over time, he became strong enough to survive on his own, even if the whole party was wiped out, even taking down bosses solo when needed. As he grew stronger, he formed a new belief. He realized that becoming the strongest didn't require money alone, pure skill and technique could make it happen. With that mindset, he chose the path of becoming the strongest. It also allowed him to earn money while protecting the person most important to him. He made up his mind to become the strongest. Later on in his journey, he met a good brother who fought beside him and shared the same goal. It was Bailey Changcheng. They agreed to become the strongest in their own paths, relying only on their own strength. And then they entered a showdown to see who was stronger. People talked about Ling Jie, known as the undying god of war. He was only called for the most dangerous team fights, but those who saw him knew his skill was far beyond normal. It was something no average player could match. Starting from nothing, he climbed step by step with pure skill. His strength was built entirely on technique, far above ordinary players. Because of this, his income grew and his family situation slowly improved. Until something changed. The Pinnacle Battle agent told him to concede. He couldn't accept it. He believed he had the strength to fight the best. He dreamed of reaching the top of Epic and standing at its peak. And more than that, the prize money could cure his sister's illness. He asked why he should lose. The agent explained that this so-called pinnacle competition was controlled by money. As someone from a normal background, he had no chance against players backed by wealth. To them, his loss was already decided from the start. On top of that, his opponent was his good brother, Chang Cheng. Losing to him would mean helping him reach his goal. But Jia believed Chang Cheng wouldn't betray their promise. Since Chang Cheng knew his reason for becoming a player, he felt it was only right to go all out. He made up his mind to become the strongest. He was ready to risk everything just to defeat Bailey. Even as a commoner, he chose to defy fate and rise with his own strength. Deep down, he believed that as long as he kept moving forward, this path was the right one. The agent warned him that if he didn't agree, Capital would find a way to force him to concede. So they suggested that instead of falling from the top, he should take the chance to retire. He thought about the gap between them. Bailey could fail again and again and still rise because of his powerful backing. But for someone like him, one failure meant everything was over. He had no second chances. Just then, he answered a call, already feeling something was wrong. As he asked his mom what happened, his mother's voice shook as she said the hospital had stopped treatment because the equipment malfunctioned, and his sister's condition suddenly got worse. She begged him to give up, saying there were suspicious men in black watching at the hospital. Hearing that, he dropped the phone, completely shaken. He broke down as he thought of his sister. In the present, she asked if he was crying. Trying to calm her, he forced a smile. She said he was acting strange. She doubted if he could really make that much money from the game. He said yes, because he opened a mystery box and sold a piece of equipment for a huge price. He told her they could finally live a better life now. Hearing that, she got excited and ran to get the VR helmet so she could play too. He shouted that minors were not allowed to play games. Everyone has their own reason for becoming a player. Some do it for glory, some for dreams, and some just to escape reality. As for Ling, his reason was simple. He wanted to become the strongest. People at the bottom are tough enough to survive. They are used to trading their lives for money, almost like monsters. No matter how bad things get, they somehow keep going. But the truth is, there's always a reason why someone survives. For him, it was simple. He wanted to become the strongest because only the last one standing can protect what matters most. That was why he chose to become a player. In this life, he wanted to become the strongest, but he still needed to buy some things first. So, he went to Epic's official store, the Dimensional Edge. There were many different items inside. In his past life, it was only in the mid to late stage that he finally saved enough to buy equipment, and even then, it was 2 tiers lower than the best ones. But Chang Cheng was already using top-tier gear like the Supreme Thunder very early. The seller recognized him. He asked if the entry-level model wasn't working for him. Ling said he wanted to buy a Supreme Thunder. The man couldn't believe what he heard. Then he scoffed and said he wasn't trying to lecture him, but that kind of talk was something only real pro players would understand. The man dismissed him, saying it was impossible for someone his age. He said even if he worked manual labor for 10 years, he still couldn't afford even a small part of that device. Then someone walked in and paid for the Supreme Thunder in full. The seller instantly switched his attitude toward this rich client named Rexford. He said there was only one in stock in the whole city, and it was specially prepared for him. Ling recognized Rex's voice. The men behind Rex muttered that they got screwed over by that idiot named Lin Jie. Rex blamed his equipment for not being able to crush Ling. He was clearly furious. Then he noticed Ling standing right beside him. Ling said that enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. He reminded him of his last threat and asked if he wanted another lesson. Rex realized Xiaolian had failed to finish him in the game. He admitted Ling was tough, but this was real life, and Rexford was confident here. His henchman reminded him that he said the same thing back in Meltown. He claimed that the kid cheated in the game, but in real life, he wouldn't be able to cheat. Plus, it was 3 against 1, so he told them to teach this kid a lesson. The seller quickly told them not to fight there. He warned Ling not to act rashly, reminding him that the person in front of him was young Master Rex. He urged him to kneel and apologize, saying he couldn't afford the damage if anything broke in his shop. Ling Jie sighed and said games should stay as games and not be dragged into real life. He added that he had originally planned to let it go. Rex got even angrier and pulled out a dagger. He was determined to take back the pride he lost in the game. The henchmen were also angry since they had worked hard to level up. Rex attacked him. Ling activated his eye, and in that moment, time seemed to slow down. He thought about how 5 years of Azure Hell-like brutal fights had sharpened his mind and trained his brain. His reaction speed and muscle reflexes had improved a lot. Because his reactions were so fast, everything around him felt slower during fights. And the same thing happened in real life. After Ling dodged the attack, Rex accused him of cheating in real life too. Ling got ready to strike back with his fist and landed a heavy punch on him. Rex looked like his soul had left his body. Ling told him that cheating in real life was impossible. Then he told the 2 remaining men to come at him together and save time, but those men chose to leave their boss behind. Ling casually paid and told the clerk to prepare the Supreme Thunder. The man was shocked and asked how he earned that much money as a manual laborer. Ling simply said his balance was enough. He left the store carrying a box in his hands. But then he noticed someone waiting for him. It was a large man with green hair. He recognized him as Hawk from the game. He asked why he didn't attack when his companions did. Hawk stammered. He struggled to say what he wanted. Then he suddenly said that he wanted to become stronger. Ling found it a bit amusing. He introduced himself as Hawk, or Retribution Knight. He begged the Blade of Dawn to accept him as a disciple. Ling said he had no plans to take a disciple and turned to leave. But Hawk grabbed onto him and said that from the moment he saw him fight like a god of war returned from hell, he realized Ling was a true powerhouse. Hawk admitted that he chose the Retribution Flame talent because he was afraid. He said he feared fighting others, getting hurt, and taking real responsibility. He added that all his flashy but useless effects were just hiding his cowardice. He admitted he was a failure and said he truly wanted to become stronger and become someone powerful like Ling. So he begged him again to accept him as a disciple. Ling apologized and said that for now, he had no plans to take disciples. He then thought that the other guy still didn't understand what truly mattered. Still, he added that maybe in the future, he might consider it. Hawk's eyes lit up when the Blade of Dawn didn't fully reject him. Ling knew that once someone admits their weakness, they've already started to grow stronger. He noted that Epic was currently updating and preparing to launch version 1.0. He thought that when the time came, he would observe Hawk carefully before deciding. Hawk shouted that he would use this time to prove himself. He declared that he was worthy of becoming the Blade of Dawn's disciple. At that moment, the gears of fate began to turn, shifting in a way completely different from before, and this was something no one could have expected. Back home, Ling Jie put on his VR helmet. He was ready to dominate the game again. A few seconds later, he appeared in front of his house in the game. He hadn't been there since Mayor Green gave him the key. Then he realized the update had set his default login point to his own house. He turned the key and said he was back. He was welcomed home as the Lord Blade of Dawn. A system message appeared, saying the update unlocked the house renovation feature, letting him freely modify the house. It also said the land within a 500-meter radius was now his personal territory. The system explained that the higher his reputation in Epic, the more land he could gain in the future. Ling was surprised, realizing this feature even existed. He admitted that in his past life, he never owned a house, so he didn't know much about it. Looking around, he saw the house was completely empty and not livable at all. He checked the renovation options and saw things like luxury floor tiles, a leather sofa, a chandelier, and even a weapon rack, all priced in silver coins. He realized the house Mayor Green gave him was basically designed to drain all his hard-earned money. Comparing the costs, he thought it could even buy a real mansion, and he called them straight-up profiteers. Still, the scenery was nice, so the money wasn't a total waste. Sitting inside, he figured he could just earn more money later. Suddenly, someone rang the doorbell. He walked to the door to check. He opened it slightly and asked who it was. It was Xiaolian. He made a sour face, already feeling unlucky. He tried to close the door, but she pushed it open and said they could be considered old friends. She asked if she was really that unwelcome. He then thought about how Lien controlled the entire underworld of the town, and nothing good ever came from dealing with her. It was also known that many players in Epic were into malicious PvP. Players who gained red names couldn't move freely in most public areas. But underworld NPCs like Xiao Lian would take in these infamous players and provide them with services. Of course, her services came with extra fees, and anyone looking for her was usually trouble. Then she said she had a job that could make him money. He said it was his first time seeing an NPC come directly to his door to offer a quest. Without hesitation, he told her he wasn't interested. She pushed the door open harder, hitting him in the face. She said that in Meltown, no one else could complete this quest except him. Then she explained that a man-eating demonic beast's lair had appeared on the western ridge. He had no idea something like that had even happened. Lien explained that the creature was very strong and had already eaten several of her subordinates, so she needed someone to deal with it. He pointed out that her men usually worked near the town. He asked why they would go all the way to Westwind Ridge just to die. Lien said that in their line of work, it was better not to ask too many questions. She told him to just decide if he would take the job, offering 100 copper coins as a reward. Ling countered and said 10 silver coins instead. Lien was shocked and said that was an outrageous price, since 10 silver coins was equal to 1,000 copper coins. He calmly replied that since he was the one who could complete the quest, he had the right to set the price. He firmly said 10 silver coins was his final offer. Lien complained that with that amount, she could hire every player in town. She asked why she would even need him. He said that if she came to him personally, then she must have her own reason. He added that if she didn't want to say it, he could say it for her instead. Lien found that interesting and told him to go ahead. He revealed that Lien's treasure vault was located at Westwind Ridge and was actually a hidden dungeon. After the update, the cave had been taken over by respawn monsters. He pointed out that she wanted to get her treasure back but couldn't find the right person to do it. She was shocked that he knew. He knew that the stolen wealth she hid there was worth far more than 10 silver coins, possibly over 100 gold coins, along with many valuable items. Lien was stunned and asked how he could know all this, pointing out that he was just a beginner player. He thought to himself that he was someone who had been reborn. There was no NPC secret he didn't know. In his past life, Lien's vault later became a treasure hunt quest. It caused a server-wide craze, and he was one of the players who joined. But this only happened after Meltown was destroyed in the early stages of the game. Lien fell into darkness. She killed many innocent players and was later hunted down by a subjugation team. In the end, the Dark Street Xiao Lian became just another name recorded in the history of Epic. He told her that what he really wanted to talk about was the stolen money. He added that if he reported it to Mayor Green, then Xiao Lian of the Dark Street wouldn't live to see the next version. Lien angrily cursed Mayor Green, saying he wouldn't dare interfere in her business. She then admitted that 10 silver coins was a lot to her, since she valued money greatly. Still, she said she couldn't accept such a loss so easily. Since she cared so much about money, he told her he could handle the task without charging a single coin. Surprised, Lien asked if he really meant it. A wide grin spread across her face. In return, he wanted her to give up her position as the manager of the Dark Street. He thought about how becoming a villain doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, both in real life and in the game. He remembered that when he first met her, she felt different from how he knew her before. He also recalled that her story originally started as a small side quest. Later, Meltown was destroyed and Chanter Griffin rose as the new ruler. Mayor Green was killed, and Lien surrendered to the cruel Griffin. She eventually became his accomplice. She started to believe in the evil of human nature and acted on it, letting the darkness in her grow without stopping. She became a villain, then a boss, and in the end, she was killed. But in this life, he saw a different side of her. She had seen him lead and rally her people. And she admitted her own weakness. She even gave him a gift for helping her, which meant she was once someone who felt joy and excitement from pure combat. He thought that maybe the flow of fate could start to change because of this small difference. Lien shouted that it was impossible. He activated the Eye of True Sight, which let him see through NPC lies. Realizing this, Lien angrily shouted that he used the item she gave him to spy on her. He said there were things in the Dark Street that were too important to lose, even if it meant giving up everything. Lien acknowledged him, saying she respected him as the Blade of Dawn, even while cursing at him. Then she pulled out her sword. He stared at her and firmly said this was his territory, telling Lien to show respect. He added that only he could help her get her treasure back. Lien said the treasure was her life savings, and if she left the underworld, it would be enough for her to live and even start a business. In the end, she agreed to leave the quest to him and told him to make sure to complete it. After a while, Jia was on his way to complete the quest. Although he accepted the quest from Xiaolian, he was not happy inside, thinking his mind must have been blank when he agreed to do it for nothing. Flashback to when the system notified him that the quest had been received: defeat the mysterious monster lurking before the gate of Xiaolian's shrine. Lien said that the location had been marked on his map. Jia asked her to give him that. She shouted at him for not keeping his word about doing it for free. He clarified that he was asking for a weapon, but she couldn't understand what he meant by that. Jia explained that she had shattered his sword last time, so he hadn't found a suitable weapon yet. He recalled her promising to compensate him with another sword. She said she wasn't good at using swords, she only had blades. She took out a huge blade, almost her height, and called it Night Wraith. Jia was satisfied. A long blade with a sharp edge, and it could be used with both hands. For him, it was a sword without a doubt. Back to the present, where he had to cut thorn plants. He said Xiaolian's blade was much heavier than it looked. The system window showed that the famous blade Night Wraith was always unsheathed, as she stubbornly believed that putting the sword in a scabbard meant compromise, while she was always in a state of constant readiness to kill. The weapon had an effect: if the quality of the opponent's weapon was lower than the inherited rank, that weapon would be directly destroyed. If the quality was equal or higher, the blade slaughter status would be applied, which reduces weapon durability until it becomes impossible to repair. As he cut through more thorn plants, he thought that without the marks she placed to identify the entrance, it would have taken him an entire day to find it. He noticed a sound nearby. The mysterious monster must have arrived. A level 1 wild boar ran toward him. He was confused and said a creature like that in Epic was nothing but a food ingredient. Then something flew past him from behind, leaving him shocked. It landed near the boar as the ground burst open from the impact. Jia braced himself, his eyes wide open in disbelief. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Why was there a dragon? Before him was a level 8 black dragon named Zodiac, devouring the wild boar. A system warning appeared, saying his current level was 2. The dragon looked at him and said he was foolish and arrogant enough to think of challenging it. That was truly laughable. Xiaolian appeared via video call while she was bathing. She was surprised that they had already met. Jia was pissed at her nonchalant behavior. He asked if she was talking about that thing. Was she intending to send him to his death without a doubt? A boss of this level required at least a team of 5 people to face it. Lien replied that the difficulty of wild bosses increases with the number of fighters. If he couldn't handle it by himself, summoning more weaklings was a waste of time. After all, she had faced him herself, the Blade of Dawn boy. His level far exceeded those fools of the 4th and 5th levels. Jia was confused, as the monsters around the novice village square didn't exceed level 4. Even Chanter Griffin was only level 5. For a level 8 black dragon to appear here meant there must be some kind of error. She said that he defeated Chanter Griffin solo thanks to his skill, so she asked if he could defeat the dragon the same way. He replied there was a full 6-level difference between them. He wondered if there was a skill that could bridge this gap. The dragon said that since he had come to its lair, it would give him 2 choices out of mercy. The first choice was to be crushed so that not even ashes would remain of him. The other choice was to become its follower and serve it, which the dragon was more than happy to accept. The dragon asked him to fall to his knees and glorify its great name, Zodiac. Jia said he wasn't interested in becoming its follower and that he only came to remind it that it was occupying someone else's home illegally. The dragon roared and spat its saliva all over him. It declared that the treasure in that vault belonged to it alone. Jia thought that the game had accurately embodied all the stereotypical traits of dragons: arrogance, insolence, and greed. Then he thought that Xiaolian, who lived in the Street of Shadows, was exactly the same. The dragon conjured its attack and told him to receive punishment. Jia ran away, thinking that even in his past life, when he defeated a young black dragon of his own level, he was in a team of 8 people and he had already reached level 3 back then. In the game, the gap in attributes between level 2 and 3 almost doubles. Although he possessed the experience and skill of his past life, the performance of his current body was extremely poor. The dragon let out its breath, and Jia barely dodged it. He thought he had fallen into Xiaolian's trap once again. The dragon rose into the sky. He thought about the dragon's attack patterns, which were usually 4 types: breath, claw strike, bite, and tail slap. Any strike from them was enough to crush him at his level. The dragon shouted in the air, asking how a human dared to challenge its authority. The dragon used a claw strike, and Jia dodged again. He thought that every attack move had a slight preparatory signal before it started. When it unleashed its breath, it raised its head slightly to inhale air. For a tail slap, it braced its claws on the ground and twisted its body. For a bite, its body lunged backward rapidly, then it opened its mouth and bit forward. As for the claw attack, it was in a fan shape. After the attack, a gap appeared that lasted for half a second. He turned around from running and faced the dragon for the claw attack. That half-second gap was the moment for a counterattack. He charged at its leg and slashed his blade, but he couldn't pierce its skin. The system notified him, 0 damage dealt. The dragon turned and called him an ant, then came to bite him. Jia gritted his teeth, as there wasn't enough time to dodge. Then he used Chanter Griffin's golden bell. A bell formed around him as the dragon bit, but the attack was reflected, and the bell was thrown away. The dragon couldn't understand what it was. Jia got up and thought he was lucky to have that with him, as he had survived by a miracle. He thought that if he couldn't pierce its defense, how would he be able to win? He needed to think of a way. The dragon noticed that he couldn't use that move again and prepared a dragon breath attack, calling him trash. Jia observed that a continuous cone-shaped flame jet, if launched from the front, was basically impossible to dodge. He tried to close the distance. When fighting dragons, players generally try to keep a safe distance, but after opening up the distance, the breath's range gets wider, making it even more dangerous. The true safe distance was actually 0. He jumped at the dragon, raising his blade for an attack. The dragon was surprised at his speed. This human player's speed, it was completely unlike what a level 2 should have. His attack landed on the chest just before the breath, but he couldn't get past the defense again, as the system notified, 0 damage dealt. He gritted his teeth. The famous sword couldn't deal any damage. The dragon laughed at him, saying he couldn't even pierce its skin, calling him trash. It said it had overestimated him. Then Xiaolian came through on a call and said she forgot to mention that the Night Wraith was a bit shy around strangers. Jia shouted in anger that she was only telling him something so important now. She said it was a legacy weapon with a lot of personality. Users it hadn't acknowledged could not unleash the sword's full power. Jia asked what the conditions were to gain its acknowledgement. She said he had to prove that he was someone who had experienced life and death trials. Jia thought that he had seen plenty of bizarre acknowledgement conditions in games, but when it came to dealing with death, he was far too good at it. The dragon readied its breath again. As it launched it, Jia dodged to the left. He ran toward the dragon as he targeted the 3-inch spot on its neck, where the dragon's reverse scale was located. He jumped into the air and slashed his blade again. The dragon rose into the sky, saying he was naive for thinking that was enough to hurt it. Jia landed safely on the ground and looked at the dragon. He had forgotten that it could fly as well. Then he used grip strength enhancement on his blade. Xia shouted that it didn't matter before, but now it was the dragon's breath dive. With his current physique and equipment, he could not withstand it. Jia said that if the sword only acknowledged those unafraid of death, the dragon readied its breath in the air. Then, as he held the famous sword, Jia declared that it should worship him as a god, because he was the god of war returned from hell. The system informed him that acknowledgement from the legacy weapon, the famous sword Night Wraith, had been acquired. Hidden ability unlocked, Armor Destruction. Destroys the defensive structure of the target's armor or scales upon attacking. He attacked from the ground with a slash. Xia couldn't believe that he could use its full power in such a short amount of time. The dragon thought that this puny human had managed to make it feel danger. The attack injured the dragon, and it bled. It got furious and launched itself at him, saying it would make him regret this and die in agony. Jia took his stance for his next attack. The sword's skill was perfect for this situation. Engaging in close-quarters combat with the dragon, if he put all his strength into the next strike, he could defeat it. The dragon mocked him, saying he had made a foolish choice. Jia leaped toward the dragon. The dragon said he had thrown away his only chance to dodge. The system informed him that he could not perform a secondary dodge maneuver midair. Jia knew that the slightest deviation in that leap meant falling straight into hell. The scales of life and death rested on those insignificant few milliseconds. But he completely, unreservedly, and almost obsessively believed in the sword he held. His tense hands, his burning breath, every inch of his boiling flesh and blood, and all the will he had gathered in that moment, they both launched their attacks. He believed those were the only things in that chaotic world that he could entrust his life to. The dragon's breath collided with his sword slash. In this high-stakes gamble, no outcome existed other than his victory. Both attacks clashed as a massive explosion erupted in the air.